No, we're still failing. Both of us are failing, except I'm failing less than you.
64 in the special ed class.
Exactly. It's like
I'm the head of the class. It's the master cell and the slave cell and
So I was saying to Eric, how hard could it possibly be to build a car from scratch?
well, you got the oil pump, you got the fuel pump.
That's actually another thing that I totally forgot.
What?
It's like intricate parts like that. Would we make intricate parts like that?
We would
'Cause
have
that would
to.
be a pain.
We would have
What,
to.
make
to make
them?
a pump. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we
So
were
you're gonna
saying-
get like some kind of like bladder and you'd like manually pump your
No,
fuel?
you could do it.
No,
like
you can
electric.
You'd be like
it.
trying to drive and like
Yeah.
pumping all these
Yeah.
on the pumps to get like your brakes going and actually
Yes.
just Flintstone your brakes.
No.
Or
At that point, yeah.
messing around having like an old school go-kart. They used to take like weld steel flaps to like a bar, and when you'd hit the brakes, the brakes would pull like a metal rod, so like a steel dowel, and basically these flaps would go and kind of just like touch your wheels.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
and
that would be the
try to
brakes.
kind of stop you.
Yeah, but it really all it would do is just
Hey, listen, safety third, boys.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely. Well, yeah, because we were talking about the idea of a much larger format show, which we won't get into this
Yeah,
today.
so nobody can steal it.
But the idea of like
if y'all steal it, good for you.
yeah, that's a large project.
Well, all you know is the fuel pump, the oil pump,
Yes.
the brakes with the flaps.
But Eric and I was saying, Eric, like, how hard would it possibly be to engineer a car from scratch? Like, and when I say from scratch, I don't mean like, okay, we're gonna go buy a box engine and put it in a thing. No, like from nothing,
Like
like
machine it
pieces of
and-
metal
Yeah.
to a car, like to something that could be considered a car.
I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to like old school like manually pump fuel.
Whatever
into
you
the
gotta
Well,
engine.
no,
do.
like you can make like if you're at that point, then you can do diaphragm. Like you could pull from the engine, like gear ratio it down, and then just like find a ratio where it would just like pump at like a specific speed. That's probably the easiest part, like the pumps. But like engineering an engine,
that thing's gonna run like a 1920s tractor, dude.
it's gonna be
As long as it
fine.
runs, guy. I don't care how it runs.
You ever see those old school tractors that you'd have to like put a shotgun shell into it to even like get it to
Just
run?
a little
to
bit of
start
powder,
up?
Oh, no,
a little bit
I
of
didn't know.
gunpowder in there.
Yeah, there's these things like I remember seeing it. A lot of Italian tractors. You put a shotgun shell in. You close you close like the little door that you put it on. You crank up your fuel. You gotta like get your air and your ratio and everything. Like you crank like 1,000 dials. Oh yeah, it's a big dance. And then like you go and take like a hammer and whack it against the
Nice manual spark plug.
thing and all this. Yeah, and then the spark from the shotgun shell gets your engine going. But if you don't have your ratios right and like crank all the right dials in the right order, like the hokey pokey, you're cooked, bro.
Explodes.
You need like a borderline degree, or you need to at least be like old school. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure a Portuguese could get that thing running.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Just
absolutely.
after a couple practice shots.
Gotta
Yeah.
know.
I kind of want to watch a video of somebody doing that now.
I'll find it for you
Yeah,
later.
that's gonna be great.
You know, run it in.
Oh yeah. Welcome to the Life Podcast. My name is Eric, and I'm here today with Tyler.
Wow, that got really professional. That was like your customer service voice.
Yeah, I got those down.
Hey, what's up?
I'm here too.
My name's Tyler.
I was waiting for him to
I
say
work
it.
at the
And
Button
I'm
Factory.
I'm also here with Benji.
Hello.
You
And,
push your button with your right hand.
and today we're talking about building engines and random tractors. So welcome.
I don't
All right,
think
yeah,
it would
we
be
can
that
we can turn
hard.
off the customer service voice now.
No, it's gonna stay on for a little bit longer.
No, I think that. So I was saying we start small and then we build our way up to building a car. I think it'd be great.
Like start with like a lawnmower. How dangerous would that be?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's have a massive metal blade spinning.
We'll make it really dull at first.
Yeah, just put a stick on it.
Yes.
Well, but like, see, like the thing with that is that you can't put something that doesn't weigh enough because then you can cook the engine just based off of like no load. So you got to start with something as heavy as the blade that you're gonna put on it.
It's gonna
Yes.
go.
This
This
is
is gonna end
this is
really
gonna be-
well.
That's once the studio gets like life and health insurance like policies. That's when we start.
Yeah, it's down the road.
Safety third.
Yesterday we were using a blowtorch inside. Like this is
To make marshmallows.
Oh, guys, you guys sent me that snap. You were like right there, like on top of those cardboard boxes as you're like cooking that thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like
It was a perspective thing.
Yeah.
Eric was farther than it looked from the boxes.
But yeah, I mean, do what you got to do to get the shot.
Yeah, that's
You know?
basically what it's. Interesting.
Our future insurance broker is gonna listen to this episode and be like, "You want me to what?"
Yeah, it's like indoor marshmallow roasts.
listen, kids, fine. What you don't know won't hurt you.
Yeah,
That's
those shots didn't even come out that good. To be fair, it's tough working with roasted marshmallows. Like they're like droopy and like they're like gooey. It's like it's not really helpful.
Yeah.
Such a random issue to have, but like fair enough.
Yeah, because I mean, you take them off the stick, they get even worse.
Yeah.
So it's like
So you keep it on the stick and then it like starts like sagging on the stick. It's weird.
weird problems to have.
There you go. Okay, Tyler, take it away. Just get us away from this topic.
All right, I'm gonna hijack this show. Get it away from you, saggy marshmallow boys.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna talk about some things that matter.
Yeah, fair enough.
Marshmallows matter.
All right, so we went and we skimmed the show notes this morning, and we linked together 4 different quotes that all went in at separate times, but they work together in harmony.
Yeah.
We're going to talk this morning about character. Our first quote here says, "Circumstances reveal character, choices make character." I do believe that was Chris Valentin, if I'm not mistaken. Second quote here is, "Blaming your circumstances for your character is like blaming a mirror for your looks." That was
Vlad.
Some guy Vlad. True character is determined by how much it takes to offend you. That's Vlad as well. And then much of your victory in tomorrow's battles is directly proportional to how you manage your soul today. That was Chris again. So circumstances reveal character, choices make character. What is character? Let's break that down first before we do anything. Because a lot of people be like, "Oh, I know all this character on a show. I know Chandler from Friends." It's like,
he was cooked.
yeah, he had no character.
Yeah.
But it says here, circumstances reveal character and choices make character. Character is the repeated decisions that you make over and over and over again that turn into, I guess,
Who
like
you
your
are.
who you are, your social credibility, or things that are common to expect out of you.
Yeah.
So, say you show up on time all the time. That is a good and safe to say that you're a person of higher character because you're a person of your word and that you actually do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Versus the inverse of like, "Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow."
The circumstances reveal character thing is so important. And we talked about this on the show like a while back with like I take my friends, like the people I travel with on the first time that I travel with them, I take them on red-eye flights because I want to see how they react to being in
That's a character test.
Yeah, exactly. It's to say that it's like, or when you see those TV shows where like a boss leaves like $50 underneath the register or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's all like see how the employees react. That's a character test, and that character is like what you do in those situations. It's important for us to realize that the only way to truly see somebody's character, or like as the phrase is most likely said or most usually said, like see somebody's true colors, is to put them in that type of situation. You can theorize and say, okay, well, Tyler's a good person 99% of the time.
Every time
So-
I see Tyler, he's a good person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I can assume that he's a good person when I don't see him. But that's not necessarily true. You have to like see them in different scenarios. you know?
Absolutely, and you have to, not to create the circumstance, but every time there's a new circumstance in your life, how you handle it is another way that your character is developed.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right practices or the right mindset, you can really just overreact to the smaller things, and that becomes a part of your character too.
Character skills can be skewed, or I guess perverted is really kind of the right word. Like, say you live in the hood, and it's just common practice to just like steal and rip everybody off. Like, no big deal. Like, I just steal all this little stuff here and there and everywhere. It's like, on my scale, if you steal anything, that's a problem.
Yeah.
If you're ripping off your taxes, that's a problem. If you go and just like, if I just obscurely just took like a bag of M&Ms from you, like that's, I mean, as stupid as that is, that's still like, dude, like you didn't ask me to take my M&Ms. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I could probably take a bag of M&Ms from you and you wouldn't get mad. But
If you could find M&M's, it's yours.
but that's not the thing. But like,
Yeah.
if it's normal practice for everybody around you to be ripping everybody off, it's like, everybody would be like, oh, that guy's a great guy, like because stealing doesn't register because everybody else is a pile of trash too.
Yeah. Character is based off of relativity, where
Yes.
it's all like if the character of the people around you is low, then it's not. Low is relative. Like we use these terms a lot where we're like, oh, this person in high society has a high amount of character, and it's like they can still be the worst person
Yeah,
in
they could
their
be a
circle.
gigantic pile of trash. Like, oh, but he
Exactly.
gives all kind of he does all kind of philanthropy and gives all kind of money away and everything. But it's like, yeah, but you don't know how he treats his wife at home.
Yeah.
You don't know how he like gave a backhand to his servant and told her to like get back in the kitchen like last week.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that saying like, "Show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are." You know, and that's such a big thing, and
Such a Portuguese thing.
such a Portuguese thing, and it's so that's one of that's good for them because they figured out a couple of quotes. That's one of them.
Yeah.
That one's really good because but no, seriously, like if you hang around people who are thieves, you know what I mean, but they're just your friends. You're not a thief.
Yep.
But your friends are thieves. It's safe to assume, especially from an outside person looking in, that you also like to do that. You know what I mean? If this person, your best friend, got caught stealing and went to prison or whatever it is that happened, and they got and you're still friends with them, it's safe to assume that you also help him do those things. You know what I mean? So these things you have to keep in mind, and these things sometimes things that aren't your character will build outside character for you.
Well, it's easier for bad character to rub off on you than for good character to rub off on somebody with bad character. It's much easier.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Like, night and day easier. There's a proverb that we read all the time, and it says, "Don't be deceived. Bad morals corrupt good character."
Yeah.
And it's true. If you're around trash all the time, if you're playing with the pigs all the time, eventually you're gonna smell like a pig and get dirty in the mud.
Absolutely.
Well, that's just like a thing with society, and we understand it in a lot of different ways, but it's interesting when it comes to these types of things, we don't really realize them. It's easier to spend money than it is to make money, just by definition. It's easier to sell a house than it is to buy a house. It's like, it's easier to buy a house than it is to sell a house. It's easier to spend the money than it is to get it. Like, the same thing with character. It's easier to get rid of something that you already have than it is to try to get some to you.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier when you were talking about
good way to
that.
put that,
You were saying like, oh, Tyler's a good person. Every time I see him, he always does something good. But then, like, I could do something good 99 times, and that one time that I don't do it, I cook it because if I did whatever something the bad thing that we were hyper-theoreticalizing.
Wow.
I made that up. I think.
Wow. Continue.
Yes. It's early, guys. But whatever that thing is, say he's a lie. He never lies. And then all of a sudden I'm in front of a crowd of 300 people, or I'm in front of 10 people, and 99 times I didn't lie, and then one time I lied. The minute now I have 300 people in one room that say, "Oh, that guy's a liar." It's like you cook your character in 1 second.
Yeah.
And every decision that you make adds to your character in a good or bad way. Like, you have a decision every day to lie. Like, that's an option for everybody. You know what I mean? So, like, making the decision to actually lie is a negative effect on your character. This is pretty obvious stuff, I think. But you just have to be very conscious of the things that people... it's character is who you are when no one's looking. You know, so even the things that when you're in private and no one's around you, and how you carry yourself, that is your character. Who comes out at night is your character.
That's it. That was a quote from season 1 by a guy, Oswald Chambers. He said, "You are what you are in the dark. The rest is just reputation."
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as character affects reputation, it's important to realize that everybody is much more than what they show. You show a certain thing, and you are much more than that, in the same way that Tyler shows a certain outlook, and the more you spend time with somebody, the more you see more of them. But you're never going to know everything about somebody. And that's where the term, like, out of character comes from, where it's all like, you did something that I wasn't expecting about you, or wasn't expecting you to do with the information that I already have regarding you.
Right. The narrative I wrote for you, that didn't fit the narrative that I had written mentally for you in my life.
That was, you didn't meet the expectation I had. And that's like, and that goes into another topic. We've talked a lot about this before, so it's like I'm having a hard time pulling new stuff into it, but at the end of the day, this is kind of a refresher course. So,
sometimes when you take the same ingredients and just reconstruct them, you can make a totally different dish. But we're getting to that time. We can take a quick ad break, and we will come back and really talk about what circumstances and character really look like. So stay tuned.
we would like to thank Anchor for sponsoring and hosting the Life podcast. So who are Anchor and what do they do? Anchor is the all-in-one platform that gives you everything you need to make and publish your podcast. And best of all, it's all free. Anchor allows you to use their creative tools to record and edit your podcast. No need for any fancy professional equipment. Sounds amazing, right? And we haven't even gotten to the best part. Anchor isn't just a recording and editing platform. They're a publisher too. This means that Anchor takes care of all of the hard stuff, like publishing to Apple and Google Podcasts, so you don't have to. So what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Another thanks to Anchor for hosting, publishing, and sponsoring the Life podcast.
Driving standard in my Jeep. And like I would be stuck in traffic. Now bumper to bumper traffic, driving stick was already miserable enough. So I'm sitting there, I'm pumping the clutch just to be able to like wiggle back and forth and move forward. But I'm sitting there and I'd keep this little purple bong in my center console. I mean, it was only like 4 or 5 inches tall. Yeah. It had somebody took like those gel, like it's not a marker, but it's like gel that you could put on the side of glass or whatever to make like designs, almost like a gel pen.
Okay.
It had like this like gel pen like mushroom on the side of it. I mean, this thing was kind of ghetto, but it was cool. It did its job, and I had it filled with Malibu rum.
Okay.
Just to make matters a little bit more interesting.
That just opens up the doors to a lot of things. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're gonna drink the bong water, at least have it be like liquor too. We get desperate boys sometimes. Dude, I remember I would commute to New England Tech, and I would be stuck in bumper to bumper traffic. I'd be so miserable. I would be smoking that little bong the whole way there, and people would just be watching me. This is before weed was legal too, so it's just like I don't care. Like I'm sending this thing. I would get to school. I would stop at like a little store first, get like a coffee, a black and mild. I mean, I'm really drawing on some old memories here. I would sit there and I would hang out for a few minutes, like fish. My Jeep was completely fishbowled. Yeah, like I probably went into that class reeking. I was way too high to start the day, but I thought I was gonna be extra creative that day. and that was my I really don't know where that story came from, but that's how I used to go to New England Tech every day.
It's your morning routine.
That was my routine.
Now I think that's a good segue to for me to say this. Your character can change. You can change your character.
Absolutely. Well, those circumstances revealed my character. I mean,
at that time, yeah.
I met the hardship of having to just like buckle down and go to school, and I hated going through the traffic. So it's like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna take it out on my body. That's what I'm gonna do. Like, and I would end up cooking the rest of my day because I decided to get cooked on the way to school. Like,
cause and effect.
So we back and we're talking about circumstances revealing character. We see it a lot when you back somebody into a corner. You'll really see their true colors.
Or when you back yourself into a corner.
Or when we back ourselves into a corner, you'll be able to see how you actually react.
I worked with somebody who works well, quote unquote, well under stress, and they work their most efficiently under stress.
Yeah,
like the Tom Brady. Tom Brady throws all the touchdowns, scores all the baskets.
Yes,
our love of sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Shining.
So what this guy used to do was just artificially create stress. So like we'd have a project. We'd have a project that we'd have for 2 weeks, and so it was just a perpetual cycle because this had started before I got there. So there was just always projects that needed to be done today. So we just do all of the projects that needed to be done today. And this was like a 7-person team, okay?
Yeah.
We just all work on day of projects. And then it'd be like, oh, you remember that thing that we had 2 weeks ago? Yeah, it's due today. It's like, why didn't we work on it for 2 weeks? And it's like, oh, because we were doing other things. And we just have massive amounts of downtime, but nobody knew what to do. Yeah. So we just stand there, and it was horrible. And it's just like artificial stress.
Yeah. So
that was their character.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Well, not good for that because that affects a lot of people around you. It's horrible for you, but for him, I mean, whatever works, right? It's unfortunate that he had so many people under his belt. But there are people that don't do that because it makes them better. There are people that create artificial stress just because they don't. This is what their character does. They don't know how else to operate, and it's not that they make better decisions in those circumstances. And I have specific people in my mind that I'm speaking of, but it's they just create this unnecessary stress in any small situation. Like, I don't know, you forgot to pay a bill, and then all of a sudden, like, you got tacked on like one of those late fees, and now it's just like triggered, and like now it's a much bigger situation than it actually should be, and those kind of things stem from very deep roots.
Yeah, that's an adult temper tantrum if I ever saw one.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people as adults, because you're an adult, you don't think of it as a temper tantrum. You just think of it as I'm being an adult.
Like
and
I'm mad and I can freak out and people will just listen to whatever I have to say.
Exactly. And but it comes from a much deeper stem thing that you have to figure out. You have to dig down and try to figure out where the roots of these things are. And it could be from multiple things.
Well, that starts from lack of ownership of your problems, lack of ownership of your life, to be able to say, like, well, why am I mad right now when I was the one who needed to pay my bill? Especially if you got the notification, you had no like.
Yeah,
you knew the bill was coming, and if you didn't get something in the mail, like, shame on you. You should have followed up and checked, because it comes every month.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even at that very little, I mean, you can try to blame the company, but it's like, that bill comes. You should proactively look for it, because you're an adult and you own your life and you own your problems.
Yeah, you got to take responsibility. That's a part of your character. Taking responsibility for you and everything that comes around you is part of character.
So we were talking during the break, and we were talking about, like, different circumstances that people, if they don't get everything that they want, if the circumstances aren't perfectly right for them, you'll really see their character. Like, if somebody is used to doing whatever they do, but they have to drive a Mercedes and have, like, this extravagant house and all these materials and the best of everything, the minute you give them just enough to be able to do the job, or whatever it is, it's like, I'm not gonna do that, or like they freak out. We were using an example for us. It's like, well, the difference between starting a media company with a $200,000 grant versus were you willing to do it with the entry level and consumer level products that you do have.
Yeah,
it's like.
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting decision that we had to make, and I don't know if that said anything about our character, because we're still, like, going through it. So we'll see it in a future time when we look back on it, like, okay, I'm glad we made that decision, or that was a stupid decision. We'll figure that out later. But there was the option of getting that very large sum of money as a grant and really launching into a different.
Side note, it wasn't a grant. It was a loan.
A loan, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Whatever that was.
because grants you don't have to pay back.
Yeah, loan.
Loans you
It was a
do.
loan. Yeah, if we said no to a grant, it would
Yeah, that would have been extremely.
stupid. But it was a loan. Yeah, sorry.
Being a success podcast, we think about it. People stop and don't start businesses just because if they don't have everything to the level of extravagance that their brain has pictured, they won't even start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that will show somebody's character too, where they're not even willing to be faithful in the little things, or be able to just get up out of their own way to start going towards their goal, so that they can be successful one day, rather than like, I can just blame this, that, and the other thing for my lack of success.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll continue moving down the list. Blaming your circumstances for your character is like blaming a mirror for your looks. You can be.
Yeah.
Do you wanna go in?
No,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's like, the cashier was said that my coupon was expired, so I screamed at them. So it's not my problem. It's not my fault. It's like, no, Jennifer, you don't get to scream at people because your coupon for 50 cents off of 50 it didn't work. That's not how this works. It's like people blame everything on everybody else, and it's really sad. And it's like, this person didn't do the thing that I wanted them to do, so I screamed at them. It's like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Like, it's just sad.
One thing that I struggled with, it's a little bit off of the mirror thing, but it's one thing that I still do struggle with at times. It's
You
procrastination.
struggle with that stuff off the mirror, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I like it when it looks back at me. Anyways, but procrastination was something that I struggled with for a while, and I still do. There are still moments of procrastination that I still come across every now and then. But that's something that I always thought that was just a part of me. You know, I there was a long time that I thought that it was just like that was just a part of who I was, and I finally had to come to a realization that procrastination was a choice, and that was it was more of a bad habit than anything else, and it wasn't exactly a character. And I thought it was a character flaw at one point. I thought that procrastination was just engraved into my DNA because that's just how my family is, and it's not how my family is, it's how they raised, like, it's just like the way I saw them act upon certain things, and it kind of just taught me a certain way, right? And that built in a way a character of who I was. But I had to come to a conscious decision to change that in my life and say, like, no, I don't want to be a procrastinator. I want to just get things finished and be able to get ahead of myself. So that was something that I struggled with for a long time. Something as simple as procrastination can be considered just a bad habit, and you can change these things and to make your character stronger. I don't want to say better, because just because you're a procrastinator doesn't mean that you have a bad character. It just means that you have an opportunity to be a stronger character.
Right. Well, we'll grab onto that in the practical life application session. But blaming your circumstances for your character is blaming a mirror for your looks. We see it a lot of times too. People will blame their circumstances, say I'm a victim of my circumstances, or like say you grew up in the projects or whatever. So like, oh, I only know the hood life, so that's all I'll act as the hood life.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you just blamed wherever you were for the character that you now have.
Or like I've heard people say this. It's like, oh well, my parents gave me everything, so now I don't know how to work and I don't know how to do things, so I'm always gonna stay in this like.
If
little
anyone
one-man
ever
job.
says that to me, I swear.
I've met plenty of them.
I've met many people who have said that exact phrase.
They said that to you, like to your
absolutely.
face.
Yeah, it's all like, oh, you have a conversation. It's like, oh, why don't you get a
Absolutely
job at this place? Like, why don't you do this thing? It's like, oh, my parents always give me everything, so I really never learned how to do a job, and it's such a. I don't just want to do it. It's like that's it.
Yeah, it's very, very, very millennial, but even more so post-millennial.
That's something.
Yeah,
So
it's,
I don't even know what to call that.
That's when you just walk. Like you're like, oh, okay. Then you just walk away, and then that's it.
Yeah. No, I haven't met anybody to do that, but I mean, if you guys have, it's kind of like, I mean, I've heard of people that are like that, but
Yeah.
I've never actually met.
No,
someone
absolutely,
like
I
that.
have met people like that, and then it's these are the same types of people who will be all like, oh, I just bought like all these shoes and all these bags and all these things. It's like, I never have any money to go on vacation. It's like, I wonder why, because you just spent $3,000 on like stuff.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, it's like
But my parents will pay for me anyway.
priority. Yeah, fair
If they
enough.
go.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, you don't have that extra level of responsibility in your life, or like just accountability essentially. So it's like, oh, if I don't do it, somebody will. It's
Yeah.
okay. You know what I mean?
Which
All
is
right.
sad.
Yeah.
Well, we got 3 minutes left in this block. The third quote: "Your true character is determined by how much it takes to offend you." And that's what you can see. If you don't freak out, if you freak out on the barista because she forgot to put 2 pumps of mocha and she only put 1,
You have way
Jennifer.
bigger problems than the barista.
yeah, absolutely. And that's really what it is. I mean, you can see people's character a lot. Like if people don't get offended, if something really trashy happens to them and you don't respond with trash, that means because you don't have any trash in you.
Yeah.
And that's really what this all boils down to.
Yeah, and you can really see where you're at as far as you can really. It's like a character test where if something bad does happen, you can see by your reaction of how you feel inside where your character is at, and that's a good way to gauge if you're improving or not. Just having these, because everyone goes through crap situations. That's just a part of this life. You know what I mean? It just happens. Maybe not every day, but at least once a week, something happens to me, and I'm just like, wow. And it's just like how you that initial reaction is everything.
It is, and being able to harness what it is and be able to soberly look at it. I took a couple courses on ethics and etiquette, and one thing that always stuck out to me, it's like no matter how somebody treats you or what happens in every area of life, there's never an excuse to be rude.
Absolutely.
And our culture has perverted what being rude is. Like it's either like you can actually be rude and people are like, oh, he ain't being rude.
Yeah.
And another thing, like if you just deal with somebody sternly but not rude at all, they're like, oh, that's mad rude. Why didn't you call me out on that?
Yeah.
But it's like there's a place to actually correct an action.
Yeah.
But as long as you're well composed and maintained and you go about it the right way, like you can correct the course of that person's.
And one important thing to remember is you can't choose how people feel. Like if you do something and it makes someone feel a certain way.
Yeah. That's not your problem.
Well, it's not that it's not your problem, but you can't argue that like, no, what I did shouldn't have made you feel that way.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, so what you did might have made them feel that way, and you have to accept that you did that something to them, and it might have hurt their feeling. Like if you did, like, you didn't think you were being rude, right? You said something you didn't think it was rude. You were being just sarcastic, but it hurt them.
Well, that can kind of be rude.
And it can be rude, you know what I mean? So if they felt that it was rude, then you have to acknowledge that maybe you were being rude. Maybe not to your perspective, but because someone took it as rude, you were in a way rude. So you just have to remember that, like, you can't argue with people's feelings. If someone feels a certain way, especially if you're involved and you said something and it made them feel low, like you said something that was kind of like, condescending, and it made them feel like you put them in a lower place. That wasn't your intentions.
I don't. I hear what you're saying, but I think I disagree with that pretty strongly. Like,
Really?
Yeah. Because like the culture that we live in now, as far as feelings, you're like, oh, well, you can't argue that this makes me feel this, but yeah, but the fact of the matter was this. A lot of people, just because something evokes emotion, doesn't
mean you have to be sorry for it. It just means you have to accept the fact that you did something that put them in a lower place.
And that's fine. That's something that they're managing on their side. As long as you weren't actually rude, because there is a line of what's rude and what's not rude.
Yeah.
If you did something that was wrong, and I said, hey, listen, that's wrong, in a perfectly appropriate manner, and they get upset because it's like, why did you call me out? It's like,
fair enough.
That's a you problem now.
Oh,
that made you feel that way because I called you out, and that was rude because you called me out. It's like, no, I had to correct that action.
Fair enough.
And that's different. I mean, yeah, somebody can have feelings. Feelings aren't always legitimate. Oh, and they're the ducks.
I haven't had the ducks in like 3 segments. That's awesome.
Right? So I guess we'll come back into the practical life application.
Stay tuned.
So this is the section.
You know how great that would actually be if we had one roll in like practical life application.
It's just like
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be good. That's gonna be the one for today.
Practical life application. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Pick it up.
So I guess I'll round us out with characters, seeing that I am the
list holder.
the list shepherd today.
Congratulations.
Circumstances reveal character. Choices make character. The choices that we make directly affect on our character and what it looks like.
Yeah, because it's compound. It's a compound thing. If you want to change your character, you have to change the actions that you take, because you can't say, I'm a good person and I'm going to be a better person and do the exact same thing that you've been doing for your whole life. It's like, if you're a bad person. If you're a good person, then yeah, I guess continue doing whatever you want to do. But like, it's a compound interest thing. One, you got to think of it like a credit score, okay? You can't go bankrupt and then the next day go ask for a credit card. That's not how it works. Well, you can ask for it.
You can ask all you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because your credit score is trash. And it's like the same thing with
Absolutely. That's perfect.
There was a concept that I was trying to develop that I was going to write a book about, but that ended up not happening. But whatever.
Not yet.
Not yet, at least. It's this concept of social credit that we have. Like, as each individual person, you have a social credit score based off of the people around you.
Did you know China actually implemented that?
They did, yeah.
Like apps and stuff in like this far out crazy like communist way.
Google sold my manuscripts, and they
Brian.
Yeah, it's a Brian. Brian's on a beach in Monaco now.
Yeah, there you go.
But seriously, but like, you have a social credit score with the people around you. So if your social credit score is bankrupt, it's going to take a long time for you to become a person that people can trust again.
Right.
And it's like, it gets into the concept of like we all, like, let's say we all know a person, but that person is nicer to Eric than they are to Tyler, or they're nicer to me than they are to each of you, whatever. Yeah. And it's like, to me, this person's a nice person, but to you, this person.
And then when they see us all together, they pretend none of you exist.
Yeah.
that was very specific.
Shots fired. Hey, but like you were saying, Eric, that ties in with Benji. You were saying like, oh, it's I don't remember how you phrased it, but basically, like, the good news is, just like a credit score, your character can change. It's the repeated actions over time.
Yeah,
it's that function. So if you make good character choices over X amount of time, I mean, there's no determined like, oh, I made 3 good choices, like now you can trust me with with the world. But like,
it takes time. Yeah,
I told the truth 3 times.
Right?
So you could tell me anything.
Yeah.
I said no to getting high 3 times.
Yeah. This month.
This week.
This many.
This
Yeah.
week.
But no.
In stereo.
But seriously, you can change. Like, these things, it is a very conscious decision, like everything else. You do have to consciously make the decision that you want to change. And there are moments, like, we do make mistakes, and I could talk about this. Like, this was just like maybe a week ago that I went through it, and I was just feeling like it was. I think it was Sunday, and I had promised someone that I was going to stop by the bank for them and do something for them.
Overtime at the bank?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Overtime at the bank, and I was supposed to stop in and do that, and it slipped my mind because I'm just running at a maxed out life, and like we talked about yesterday, the levels of priority was higher on their priority than mine, and it slipped my mind. It was unfortunate, and it was my fault. And I got back and I saw them, and then they asked me if I did it, and this is where I made the mistake. I didn't say anything, but I literally just stopped, took like the deepest breath, and I felt the aggravation in myself, not in them, just in myself, because I forgot, and I just said, and I just turned around and I walked out, and to their perspective, it was rude. Like, I didn't even say anything. I just turned around and walked out, and I went to the bank and I took care of it.
Yeah.
And then I came back, and then on the bank ride, this is where I had to I was conscious about it, and I recognized what I just did, and I was like, that wasn't my intention. It was just me being frustrated with myself.
Yeah.
And so when I walked back in, I just made a joke, like, all right, ask me again. And then and then I made him laugh and everything. But it was just that initial, we all make mistakes, it's okay to go through it, but you have to recognize it, and you can apologize for when you do something wrong.
And just like a credit score, if you had one late payment or something, I mean, I don't know what a late payment looks like to affect your credit score, but but it doesn't affect it that bad. Like, say if you have an 800 credit score and then one little thing happens, it'll kick you down into the 700. Still, that's still a good credit score.
Yeah.
And that's how it works over repeated decisions. But if you have 3 negative remarks over...
You have to remember, if you call the credit card company and you explain to them, most of the time they do let it slide.
Oh, yeah, they'll wipe them right off.
You know what I mean? So as long as you apologize and you get in front of it and you don't just let it, sweep it under the rug and pretend like it never happened, that's a different kind of... that shows your character. But if you get in front of it and you actually try to correct the situation, that's such a great character builder, being able to own your mistakes.
Well, the beauty about character is it's all in your own hands. Moving to the second quote, just so we can recap again, blaming your circumstances for your character is like blaming a mirror for your looks. The one thing we can own is our character and the repeated decisions to choose to not let your external environment affect your internal environment. And anybody else got anything about that?
No, go ahead.
Can you say that again, please?
What I said or the
What
quote?
you said.
Oh,
The internal environment.
You can't let your external environment affect your internal environment.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a choice. I mean, you have the ability to choose what you allow to affect you.
If you're in a stressed out environment, you don't have to be stressed out.
Absolutely.
And that affects a lot of people. That affects people very aggressively. If you're the one calm person in a situation and everybody else is hyperventilating, everybody else wants to know why you're not hyperventilating with them. It's the same thing.
Yeah, you kind of become a target.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same way the other way around. If you're the one who's stressed out in a social situation where everybody's calm, everybody's kind of weirded out by you being stressed out.
Power of numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So the situation is always going to try to bend your character to the majority, but it's important to realize that's not always the best situation.
And another thing is when you're first starting, if we always talk about your closest 5 people, they're essentially your character around you because you're always with them. But if you want to change your character and if you're not strong enough to be that strong person and to not bend in those moments, maybe you have to remove yourself from putting yourself in those situations.
Yeah.
If you know that there's a person that often overreacts to things, maybe you spend a little bit less time with them because you're just not strong enough in your character yet to be able to withstand what they're going to throw at you. And just because it's I hate to say strong or weak, but sometimes our characters are weak, especially when we're first starting to build up. When you first start with anything, you're just in a weaker state. And if somebody else's character has very well developed in a negative way, you'll bend it towards them, And
we were talking earlier on a different episode of the show, but when you can recognize that's the problem. The first step is recognizing, then it's grabbing onto different people. If you want to go somewhere else, find somebody who's going where you want to go and have them hold you accountable and bring you up to their level, or at least help you out to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's so important to take an account on the people who you have near you, because people with stronger characters in a way that you want to be, and people who are always on time and you want to be on time, you might want to hang out with people who are
have
always
them
on
hold
time.
you to that standard, or you'll get really mad.
Either or, yeah.
Not even that you'll get mad. That if I want to be on time and I work with somebody who's always 5 minutes late, if I'm 3 minutes late, they're going to be like, oh, look at this guy. He's really stepping it up. He's really going above and beyond. It's like, no, we're still failing. Both of us are failing, except I'm failing less than you.
64 in the special ed class.
Exactly. It's
I'm the head of the class.
we heard this. I'm gonna call it a quote. We heard something the other day. And it was just like some kid that walks into his job, and he's just like, and he looks at his boss, and he's like, sorry. He's like, I'm late. He's like, I'm 3 minutes behind, but it's better than yesterday, so that's an improvement in my book.
yeah.
It's like, no, you're still failing.
And I just we just did nothing but like laugh at that because I didn't expect it. But no, I mean a lot of people.
The boss was just like, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Transitioning to last topic, like we're saying, so you want to be on time all the time, so you have somebody hold you accountable for being on time, somebody who is on time, so that they have authority to speak into your life. It will do one of two things. It will either offend you because you are not on time all the time and you don't want to own it, so you're just like, oh, I'm just like sick of this dude because he makes me look like crap because I can't get my crap together. Or they're gonna help you and enable you to be able to build that character to get to that habit place to do it. And that's the next quote. Your character is determined by how much it takes to offend you.
If you're getting offended, you're not ready to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you want to change so much, but for some reason you don't.
Yeah, you don't.
And it's like, oh, you see that person, you walk into somebody's office and it's like all nice and clean and all neat and organized, and your office is a mess, and you're like, oh, like if I had that much time to organize my office, I'd be nice and clean too. And it's like, no,
your circumstances.
it's like, no, Jennifer, like you just don't clean your desk. Like that's your problem. Like.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to become on time or just change that habit and you're getting offended by the advice that's being given to you, then there's something else you need to be worried about than being on time. You have to dig a little bit deeper and try to figure out like what's really triggering these things, because it's not being on time that's making you better or worse. Yeah, you have other problems.
Well, it's an order of priority, and it's the fact of you really don't want to change. When you say it's not enough just to say like I want this or I want that, especially if it's good. And that's the beauty about characters that are repeated decision and action over and over and over again. If you say, oh, I want to clean my desk, I want to clean my room, and you say it for years but you never do it, you really don't want to do it because it's as simple as just getting up and doing it. Yeah, is order priority and grabbing onto your character. I was looking at a show quote yesterday from season 1, and it was another Oswald Chambers. He said sincerity is is when the appearance and the reality are exactly the same. So it's like you say you want to do something, but it doesn't appear that way, and it never changes. It's because you're not actually being sincere. You just talk a good talk, but you never walk the walk.
Yeah, it's action speaks louder than words. You know, you can say what you want all day long. You can say you want to be a millionaire all day long, but if you don't do anything to get you closer to that, that's going to speak louder. You know, and but if your words and your actions are in the same direction, that's a great way. Then you know that you're going to form character that way.
That reminded me of something. This concept of like character is shown in the small things, not in the large things. Where it's all like, if I'm working and somebody brings me a coffee and I didn't ask for it, that's different than me calling somebody and saying, hey, can I get a coffee? And they bring me one. You know, there's a difference in that. It's like the idea of doing something that you don't have to, or going and doing something that wasn't expected. That unexpected character can be a good thing too.
Yeah.
And those little observations, people subconsciously look at those little observations a lot more than they do the big things.
Yeah.
Because you're way more likely to forget that somebody like was screaming at you, like somebody like screamed at you on the highway, than you are for somebody to send you a card. You know what I mean? It's like the little card, it's not a lot of work, it's not a lot of effort, but it means a lot more than something extravagant or random that you saw.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the little things add up. You know, if you're consistent with all the little things, it does add so much to your character. And people do like they in a way will look the other way to your not so great qualities.
In an extreme case, I completely agree with that. But at the same time, you'll see people who overcompensate, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the store, I'm gonna go to Cumbies, I'm gonna buy people all these little trinkets, goodies, gadgets. But it's like, no, just like do your job. Do your job, Jeff. Like you don't have to go and buy me anything. Just do something right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just because you bring candy to work every day.
Yeah,
does
and
not
well,
make
I
you-
mean,
yeah.
that's exactly something too.
Yeah, because there are people that just have a bowl of candy on their desk, and it's just like, hey, take one or whatever you want, and it's just
Yeah.
like, but you're still like,
Right.
Yeah,
Where we got
you're right.
where we got 2 minutes left. What you know what really grinds my gears?
Oh yeah.
Like when some
51 episodes in, and we finally got that quote.
when you have when you have a character like that, and
Yeah.
somebody, it's like, oh, well, I will compensate to make people kind of feel good by bringing in cupcakes and cookies and muffins or whatever. But when you screw up at your job and you can't own your mistake and you start pointing fingers and trying to blame everybody else, when clearly, like, it's like, no, Jeff, that was your fault. It has your handwriting all over it. Like this was you.
Yeah.
But then I blame this and that, and it's like, yo, if you would have just owned this problem or like fixed it or just like did it right,
Yeah.
I wouldn't care about your cookies and cupcakes. then that would have been the extra blessing on top. But it's like, nah, bro, just like do your job.
I think that's like subconsciously a lot of people who do stuff like that know that they're not good at their job.
Oh, yeah.
And they kind of just like, hey, listen, like I'm gonna do this thing, or it's like I'm gonna grab this thing. Or it's
Yeah,
like,
I'll-
I'm 15 minutes late, but I brought cookies, so it makes it better.
Or you could be really good at your job.
Hey, keep that one in the pouch though, because if you are gonna be that late that one time, at least show up with like donuts.
Yeah,
Come on.
bring
Yeah.
dough. If you're gonna be 15 minutes,
just don't
late,
bring donuts every day because you're late every day.
Yeah,
That's not going to
fair.
compensate, you know?
Yeah, that he eases the hit like once. Where we got 1 minute. Last quote just to round this off. Much of your victory in tomorrow's battle is directly proportional to how you manage your soul today. You can't give what you don't have. Your internals will reflect on your externals when you get backed into a corner, and your character will really be revealed when you get pushed into those circumstances. So, manage your internal ecosystem well, your thought life well, make good decisions, have a good character, and I guess we'll see you next time. Alright, I guess I don't need this thing. Thanks for listening to the Life Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. Come follow us on Patreon. We'd really appreciate the support. You know, the coffee over here, don't pay for itself. And there's the ducks.